The cabin lights flickered just slightly as the aircraft cruised at 35,000 feet. The kind of moment most passengers would never notice. A flight attendant's voice came over the intercom, calm and rehearsed, assuring everyone that the issue had been handled. Some passengers relaxed, others exchanged uneasy glances, but one woman near the middle of the cabin sat up straighter. Her eyes moved, not in panic, but in analysis. She listened carefully to the wording of the announcement, watched how the crew moved, noticed which procedures were being skipped and which signals weren't being acknowledged. Quietly, almost to herself, she murmured, "That's not how this is supposed to go." What no one around her knew was that she wasn't guessing. She had grown up around cockpits, checklists, and emergency drills. She knew aviation protocol by heart. She could tell with chilling certainty that the crew was hiding something. By the time the plane reached its destination, this wouldn't just be a routine flight. It would be an exposure of a mid-air cover-up that should never have happened. This story isn't about fear of flying or dramatic turbulence. It's about what happens when safety procedures collide with human pride and institutional pressure. Airlines train their crews extensively for emergencies, not just to handle mechanical issues or medical crises, but to be honest, precise, and transparent when things go wrong. On this flight, however, the crew chose a different path. Instead of escalating the issue properly, they minimized it, masked it with vague language, and hoped it would disappear before landing. The woman watching all of this wasn't looking for attention or confrontation. She didn't announce who she was. She didn't challenge the crew immediately. She simply observed, cross-checking every action against what she knew to be correct. And as the minutes passed, it became clear that staying silent could put lives at risk. What the crew didn't realize was that this passenger was the captain's daughter, and that her decision to finally speak up would force the truth into the open. Mid-flight, where it could no longer be ignored, the flight starts like any other. Boarding music low, overhead bins snapping shut, the faint smell of coffee and cabin sanitizer mixing in the air. Passengers settle in with the usual routines, earbuds, in laptops open, kids negotiating snacks, a couple whispering about a tight connection. Maya takes her seat mid-cabin, window side, posture relaxed but eyes alert. She isn't dressed to impress, just clean, understated, intentional. Most people would call her quiet. In truth, she's trained to notice patterns. She watches the crew's timing, how the lead flight attendant checks the forward galley twice, how the purser whispers to a junior attendant and points toward the cockpit curtain, how the service cart is staged and then pulled back as if someone changed their mind. It's subtle small signs that something has shifted behind the polished smiles. Maya doesn't panic because panic doesn't help. She's grown up around aviation talk, not as a pilot, but as someone who learned early that airplanes run on procedures as much as fuel. Her father, an airline captain, used to say, "In the sky, clarity is safety." As the plane reaches cruising altitude, Maya settles back, listening not just to announcements, but to what's missing from them. About 40 minutes into the flight, a sharp chime sounds too quick, too crisp. Then the intercom clicks on, and the lead flight attendant's voice comes through warm and controlled. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've received a minor system notification. Everything is under control and will continue as planned." Passengers exhale immediately. Man chuckles. That's why they're professionals. Conversations restart, phones come out. Someone asks for a refill, but Maya's attention narrows. The announcement is comforting yet oddly vague. Mention of turbulence? No. We expect a brief delay. No clear reason for the seatbelt sign staying on. She watches the crew's body language instead of their words. One attendant disappears behind the cockpit curtain and doesn't return right away. Another stands near the galley with hands clasped tightly, eyes flicking toward the cockpit door, as if waiting for permission to breathe. Maya notices the cart service pause without explanation. She also notices something else. The crew's smiles are still there, but the rhythm is off like actors staying in character after the scene has changed. Maya whispers under her breath, almost instinctively. That's not standard phrasing. Not fear, just recognition. The kind of recognition that says, someone is trying to buy time. The next signs arrive in contradictions. A passenger presses the call button and asks if they're detouring around weather. The flight attendant responds with a bright smile. Just routine air traffic adjustments. Minutes later, a different attendant tells someone standing in the aisle, "We might have a little bumpiness, nothing serious." Yet the aircraft feels steady, and the seatbelt light remains on far longer than normal. Beverage service starts, then stops, then restarts in a different section like the plan was rewritten mid-sentence. Maya stands to stretch and catches a fragment of crew conversation near the... An hour later, minor notification stops feeling minor. A faint alarm tone repeats from near the cockpit, subtle, almost masked by engine hum, but real enough that Maya sees a few heads tilt in confusion. Then comes a pressure change that makes ears pop again, sharper than the first. A child winces and says, "Mom, my ears hurt." A middle-aged man near the aisle rubs his temples and asks for water, but the attendant says, "We'll be right back," and disappears for several minutes. In the back rows, a passenger starts coughing hard, deep, desperate coughs that don't stop. His wife waves for help. The call lights blink like a small constellation. A flight attendant rushes over, kneels, and speaks in a low, urgent tone. But when another passenger asks what's happening, the response is polished and empty. "Everything's okay, sir?" Maya feels her pulse rise, not because she's scared, but because she knows what denial looks like. She's heard her father talk about cascading failures. A small issue becomes dangerous when people pretend it isn't growing. The crew is moving faster now, voices tighter, eyes less friendly. Maya watches the rear situation and then the front, two problems, one silence. And in that silence, she recognizes a decision being made. Protect the schedule, protect the image, protect themselves. Maya decides she can't just observe anymore, not if someone's health is on the line. She approaches the forward galley calmly, keeping her expression neutral, like she's asking for a blanket or a cup of tea. The lead flight attendant turns, and Maya lowers her voice so no one else has to hear. "I'm hearing repeated alerts and inconsistent messaging," she says gently. "Have you contacted MedLink? Are you running the appropriate checklist?" The attendant freezes for half a second, just long enough to reveal fear before professionalism returns. "Ma'am, everything is under control," she replies, and her smile looks practiced, not true. Maya keeps her tone respectful. "I believe you're trying to manage the cabin," she says, "but someone is deteriorating in the back. If you delay escalation, you can lose the window where intervention works." The attendant's eyes flick toward the cockpit door. "We've been instructed," she starts, then stops herself. That pause tells Maya everything. "Who instructed you?" Maya asks softly. The attendant's jaw tightens. "Please return to your seat." Maya nods, as if complying, but her mind is already moving. If crew instructions are overriding safety protocol, this is no longer an issue. It's a cover-up in progress. And she knows exactly why that's dangerous. Back in the cabin, tension spreads fast. The coughing passenger's breathing becomes shallow and strained, and his wife starts crying openly, begging for help. A man stands and shouts, "Why aren't we landing?" Another passenger begins recording, and the crew notices their faces tightening, as if the camera is more threatening than the emergency. Maya hears the purser whisper near the galley, "No reports until we're down," and another voice answers, "If we divert, we trigger an incident code." The words hit Maya like cold water. They're not weighing safety versus safety. They're weighing safety versus paperwork, reputation, consequences. Maya looks around. Passengers are confused, frightened, powerless. The crew continues the performance. Small smiles, vague reassurances, while the situation worsens. Maya returns to her seat and types a short note. Times, announcements, what she overheard, what she observed. Not to expose anyone for drama, but because documentation is accountability, and accountability saves lives later. She thinks of her father's voice. If you ever see protocol broken, ask why. If the answer is ego, you speak up. It doesn't want a confrontation. She wants a course correction. but she can feel the crew pushing towards silence. She realizes silence is exactly what allows a cover-up to survive. The cockpit door opens. The first officer steps into the aisle with controlled urgency. Eyes scan faces like he's searching for the source of a problem he can't contain. The lead attendant gestures subtly toward Maya. He approaches, voice firm. "Ma'am, you need to sit down. We have procedures." Maya meets his eyes, calm. "And follow them," she replies. The first officer's expression flickers annoyance, surprise, then defensiveness. Maya keeps her tone professional, not emotional. "Confirm. Have you contacted medical support? Have you evaluated diversion based on the passenger's condition? Are you documenting the system alerts and cabin symptoms?" The aisle goes quiet. Nearby passengers stop pretending not to listen. The first officer stiffens. "You don't know what's happening up front." Maya nods once. "I know what should be happening," she says. Then, carefully, she adds the truth that changes the air. "My father is Captain Rahman. He trained me on emergency protocol because he said passengers deserve honesty when safety is involved." The first officer's face tightens. The name means something. Maya doesn't smile, doesn't threaten. She simply holds eye contact and offers a final line, steady and unavoidable. "If you keep this quiet and someone dies." The cover-up becomes the headline, not the warning light. The atmosphere shifts almost instantly, like the cabin itself exhales. The first officer turns back toward the cockpit. And within minutes, the captain's voice comes over the intercom again, this time, clear, structured, and real. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are diverting to the nearest suitable airport due to a medical emergency. We will be landing as soon as possible. Thank you for your cooperation. No more vague comfort. No more scripted softness." The crew requests medically. Trained passengers and a volunteer doctor moves quickly to the back. Oxygen is applied properly. Vitals are checked. The coughing passenger steadies enough to keep breathing without panic. Flight attendants secure the cabin with focused efficiency, distributing concise instructions and bracing procedures the way. They were trained. When the wheels touch down, emergency responders are already waiting. Passengers watch through the windows as paramedics board, take over, and move the patient with speed and confidence. In the terminal afterward, the mood is strange relief mixed with disbelief. People whisper about what they saw, what they heard, what almost happened. Maya doesn't celebrate. She sits quietly, hands folded, eyes tired. She didn't win anything. She prevented something, and the lesson hangs in the air. Safety culture fails the moment image matters more than life. But it survives when one person refuses to let silence outrank truth. As passengers finally step off the aircraft, there's no applause, no dramatic confrontation, no viral moment frozen in time, just a heavy, thoughtful silence. Everyone knows something serious almost slipped past them at 35,000 feet, not because of a malfunction alone, but because of a choice to minimize, delay, and conceal. The crew moves differently, now quieter, more careful. Aware that protocol isn't just a checklist, it's a responsibility. Investigations will follow, reports will be written, consequences will likely come. But none of that matters as much as the simple fact that lives were protected in time. The woman who spoke up doesn't seek attention or praise. She didn't expose the cover-up to embarrass anyone. She did it because silence in an emergency can be as dangerous as the emergency itself. This story leaves us with an uncomfortable but necessary question. When systems fail and authority hesitates, who has the courage to speak? Because sometimes safety isn't saved by rank or titles. It's saved by the person who knows the truth and refuses to look away. If this story made you think, share your thoughts below. Would you have stayed quiet, or would you have spoken up when it mattered most?